listening to Downworlder Dish, a Shadowhunter Chronicles podcast.
Hello and welcome to a very special bonus episode of Downworlder Dish. I'm Kristen.
I'm Robin. And that's all.
And there's no Amanda. Unfortunately, Amanda is not as far as we are in the Shadowhunter Chronicles, and so she could not be with us for this very special bonus episode, but she's like totally okay with it. She's doing way more fun stuff.
Yes. And listen, we're gonna say this a couple times before we get in. This is a spoiler warning.
Yes. This is a very spoilery episode, so I guess you're probably wondering what it's about. I'm sure the title that we come up with will be very descriptive, but we are very excited for the release of Chain of Iron that comes out this Tuesday, the 2nd of March. I've got my pre-order. I pre-ordered first edition hardback. I'm going to have to wait a couple days for it to get to me because they don't ship it until release day. So I'm a little bit bummed. I'm probably going to buy it online, like on digital.
You're going to buy it on Audible as well.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I own most of the Shadowhunter Chronicles in all 3 formats.
Why not?
But
I'm buying everything on Kindle now because it's easier access.
Yeah. And I'm stocking up on my hardback collection because that I find easier when I'm writing my scripts and stuff. But it's funny.
Oh, see, I'm opposite.
Isn't that weird though? That it just
Yeah. Currently, Clockwork Angel is under my laptop so I can prop it up higher because it needs to be down here so I remember.
Mine's on my couch because I was laying on the couch reading.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so we're so excited for Chain of Iron. We wanted to gab about our like crackpot theories and things that we've heard or things that we hope will happen, and kind of talk a little bit about Chain of Gold because Robin just finished it. And
legitimately like 2 hours ago.
We were like, we need to do this now. And we're still like probably like 4 or 5 years away from getting to this on the podcast. So I feel like we're safe to talk about it right now and it's not going to be like double duty or anything when the time comes.
Right. We won't go as in-depth as we would on like our book recap episode, but
I do want to talk about the character.
I have to. Yeah.
So why don't we just jump into it? Robin, because she literally just finished it, she's going to kind of do a small high-level Robin's recap.
Yeah. Okay, last chance to turn this off.
Yes.
Spoiler warning.
We are not holding anything back
from
any of the books that we read. So even if you've read Chain of Gold and haven't read some of the other
Dark Artifices
or
the
anything, Shadow Market, like we're spoiling things.
Yep.
So just you have been warned.
Yeah, except neither of us have read the Bane Chronicles. Right. So if some of the stupid shit we're asking questions are in that book, that's why we sound dumb. But apart from that, okay. So, Chain of Gold opens with James Herondale, which is Tessa and Will. No, yeah, I almost said William. I don't know why.
In case you didn't know, that's why Robin named her son William. No,
it's
definitely not.
Stop, please. He found a recorder of all times for him to find a recorder. Okay, all done, please. Thank you. Okay, I almost said William because my kid's name is William, who found a recorder right now when we're trying to record. Wrong recorder. Anyway, so opens up with him and some of his friends. They're fighting a demon in London, which is strange for them because demon activity has been like having a hiatus since the Clockwork War.
Right. So,
which is
when we left our peeps, their Great War, apparently demons have like just been like not around.
They're like, yeah, we got our asses kicked. Let's take a little reprieve. Right. And Chain of Gold is set in 1903.
Yes.
Right?
1903.
London. And I'm having a hard time imagining all these like beautiful hairstyles and stuff they're talking about. And I was trying to Google it, but I listened to the audio version, not read the book, so I couldn't figure out how to spell. I can't figure out how to spell some of the hairstyles. Anyway, okay. So, anyway, they go back. They're at this place called the Devil's Tavern, which is their like getaway / hangout. I want to know how they afford the rent there when none of them are probably old enough to make earning from the clave, or do you get to make an earning when you're 16? Tell me.
I don't know, but at this point in history, with the way that like society was and stuff, like they all came from wealthy families. So I think that they had pocket change, and maybe they had resources that like maybe your modern teenager wouldn't have. I feel like because they were like adults younger, like quote, I'm using quotes, you can't see me obviously.
Well, and I know because I okay, again, I binged this book like 2 or 3 days it was over, so some of the details come together, but I know Matthew was 17.
Yeah, but I also because it's been a minute since I read Chain of Gold, but I want to say they explained something like how they got the room, and like it was like a trade or something. I cannot remember, but I feel like it might have been explained, but like in a passing sort of like, oh, this is obviously why kind of a thing. I
gotcha. Regardless, they have this room, and it's where they all hang out, so that way they can like have their own space, get away from the rent, if you will, and
live their bohemian lifestyles.
Yes, exactly. So they've branded themselves trademark pending the Merry Thieves, and that's James Herondale, which we've already explained, and it's Thomas Lightwood, which is Sophie and Gideon's son.
Yes.
And Christopher.
Yes. Lightwood. Who is Cecily and Gabriel's son.
And Cecily is Will's sister.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry. It took me.
No, it's okay. I'm trying to get everything together. And then Matthew Fairchild, which is Charlotte and Henry's son. And they all, again, Merry Thieves are all there. And also in their little group, although not in that same, like, I'm going to use the word guild, is Anna Lightwood, who's Christopher's sister.
Right, his older sister, yeah. And she's older than them, so she's not really in their group. She's the cool older cousin.
Right. But she's, a starring character, if you will.
Yes.
Although, in my opinion, she's not in the book enough, so that's lame.
She's
anyway.
Not, because she's the best character. Oh my God, I love her so much. I do. Biggest girl boner for Anna Lightwood. I can't even.
Well, and then we also have Lucy Herondale, who is James's younger sister.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, and then Matthew and James are para-bro-tie.
Para-bro-ties.
Yes. So basically, James, when he's fighting this demon, he starts to go into what he explains as the shadow world, which is where he's able to, like, his mind goes somewhere else entirely, and his body stays there, like, all fuzzy, and he starts to, like, blur around the edges. And
the way I've like pictured it in my head is like, parallel universe. You know how they explain parallel universes to like children, where it's like layers of paper and you like puncture the paper and go into another paper, so it's like the infinite possibilities of the world, so like every choice creates its own possibility, and that kind of like mind-blowing crap. So that's what I always, it's like an alternate dimension he gets thrown into, because it's like it's still the same place, but it's in a different environment. It's the upside down place, basically.
Exactly. In this moment, and I think, and so he also reflects on this one time he was able to make himself completely incorporeal.
Yeah.
And go through a wall.
Right. And then, well, because we learned about this in Ghost of the Shadow Market, when they were at the academy before they got expelled, which, oh my God, is just my favorite. I love it so much. And Will's like, well, we better be going. Like, I love how Will is such a co-conspirator with his children. Like, I just,
There's a point at the end of Chain of Gold where they say basically like it's Cordelia's dancing with Will, and he says something about like dancing with an old man, and she thinks to herself like, although Jim and Tessa haven't physically aged, like they are way more like Will is more of like her like a child than he is.
Yeah,
and she didn't use the word child, but she's like that like sort of, you know, that smirky like conspirator thing, like you were saying. It's funny.
He still has that childlike quality about his personality where he's not as serious as most of the adults. He can turn it on when it needs to be, but for the most part, he doesn't want to live in that space. And that is something that I think she did so well when she aged him up, because she could have made him a stick in the mud and kind of like a only fun at home kind of dad, but that's just not who Will is. And so getting to see him and see that personality really feel authentic as an adult version was just like chef's kiss. Beautiful. I loved it.
Beautiful. I wish that okay, so reading Ghost of the Shadow Market before this was great advice.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that I did that.
I'm like,
obviously,
yes, patting myself on the back.
well, because I was thinking of skipping it. I was like, I just want to read Chain of Gold. I want to get into it. I'm going to skip it. But you really recommended it. I'm glad you did. And obviously, we get to see Tessa as a point of view character in those stories. So we get that part of her. But I was kind of sad that she didn't have like a first person voice, and neither did Will.
Yeah.
Although I know it's not about them.
Right.
But
They had
even
to,
just like
separate it.
Well, and remember in City of Bones where he just had that little tiny like Jace, just that little bit of the beginning of Jace chapter.
Yeah.
And we were like happy go lucky. Like I wish we would have had that with Will and or Tessa.
Right. Like one flashback or like not flashback, but like one flash over to their point of view to like see what are the parents doing right now. Because in so many YA, especially YA fantasy, it's like the parents are nowhere. They have and we know Tessa and Will as they were younger. So we know that they're going to be like, what the fuck are our kids doing right now? Because what we were doing at their age was, you know, starting a war.
A little bit.
Right.
Just a smidge.
There's some shit going down. Like my first reaction as Will would be like, it's our kids. Where are they? Like,
I smell danger.
Right. Our little shits are out here. It's too quiet.
I haven't heard something. Which, okay, obviously this recap is going to be really long because
Who cares?
So I'm going to try to shorten it because I'm literally going into every single detail. Anyway, we're in Lucy's point of view at the beginning of the book, and she talks about how when they used to visit Herondale Manor out in Idris, she got lost in the woods, and then this like fairy child, changeling is what she called him, saved her from a fairy trap.
Yeah.
And she talks about that. We find out later that it's Jesse Blackthorn, who is Grace Blackthorn's adoptive brother.
Yeah, so he is really a Blackthorn. So remember in the end of I can't remember what it's in TID when Benedict turns into the worm and he eats Tatiana's husband. Tatiana at that point is pregnant with Jesse. And then
I gotcha.
Grace, after like obviously her husband died or whatever, Grace, she like it's her ward, but she like gave her the last name Blackthorn, but Grace was a Cartwright. And
it's her adopted, Tatiana's son. Yeah. And he ended up he got killed.
Yeah, he died. So what we know is that like when his marks, I believe this could be completely me making it up, but I'm pretty sure I remember his first marks, like he didn't do very well. Like he got really sick.
He was a sickly child.
Yeah, and then he got really sick, and so she used like dark magic to like basically preserve him. His
last breath.
Yeah, so she has his last breath that he wears around his neck, and like it allows him to be a ghost. And he's not fully, like, dead. Like, they have his body in, like, a Sebastian-esque casket is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, they called it a Snow White casket.
Yeah. It reminds me exactly of, like, what happened with Sebastian when Lilith did all that.
And so the only people that can see Jesse are Tatiana and Grace. And for some reason... which I don't have to say some reason because it's a book. Lucy can see him because her like demon power is like able to like control ghosts.
Right. So we knew that like some Herondales had like that ability or whatever with Will, but now Lucy's like it's like hyper like it's almost like Tessa's warlock blood like supercharged what was already there.
Well, yeah, because she was saying basically like all Herondales see ghosts. It's not weird that I'm seeing a ghost. But because so we also were reintroduced to Alistair Carstairs, who is we met at the Shadowhunter Academy. And he was a giant butthole.
He was such a dick for just dick's sake.
Yeah, he was an angsty teen.
Yeah.
And we're introduced to his younger sister, whose name is Cordelia.
Oh, yeah.
And they are half Persian.
Correct.
So they all, which I'm really trying to, like, I was Googling, not obviously too in depth because I didn't want to spoil anything for myself, but I was trying to imagine how Cordelia looks.
So,
because she has red hair, obviously, which is natural. And then I'm trying to, and it does not matter. But I want to see her, like her skin tone and like.
Yeah. Let me send you, I have a pic. So.
Okay. I got your picture of Cordelia.
Okay. Here's another one. This is the like most popular fan cast.
Okay.
Okay. So Cordelia. So they use the terminology like Persian because that's back then that's what it was called. But like, so she was. From the information that I've found, she was born in Tehran, which is in Iran, like current day, modern day Iran.
At the end of Chain of Gold, Cassandra Clare puts a note in about like the language and stuff, and that's what she said exactly that.
Yeah.
So she is moving from. Her childhood was spent like on the move, basically, because her dad was quote sick, and they were always trying to find a climate that was suitable for him, which is such a fucking 1800s thing,
right?
By the way,
right?
Like. We're going to leech him.
Yeah.
And then move around a lot.
Yeah.
So funny. And so we find out in her life that he's imprisoned by the Clave. And he's locked away in Idris because he like, it was like a vampire raid gone wrong. Right? Vampire raid. Or just a demon raid. It was a demon raid gone wrong.
Yeah, I can't remember.
And they ended up taking wolves into vampire territory. And they were like, the fuck?
Yeah, it was like a big
So he got
clusterfuck.
arrested.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. And so her mission is that she needs to free her dad's name. Her mom's worried about basically her their family name, their family reputation. So they're decided to pack up their stuff, move to London, and like, I just imagine it like when you have debutantes coming out.
Yes, like Bridgerton.
Into society.
Like
yes,
Bridgerton.
I haven't seen that yet, but I'm thinking of Downton Abbey.
Okay, sidebar. You will love Bridgerton.
I know. This I was telling Amanda's like, I can't wait for you to read this book. It's like Downton Abbey meets Shadowhunters. It's great. Anyway, she so her mom, her brother, and then their like house person,
handmaiden, something like that. Like she's basically like mom's assistant. But like also
so they she's like her lady's maid.
Yeah.
But then she has to do other stuff too. She has to cook and well she doesn't have to, but she cooks and she answers the door. So she's acting like a butler and a maid and a lady's maid. So this lady is overworked.
She is.
By the way.
Where's Osha?
And they end up, which I thought was funny, they like took the piano with them. Anyway, they come to London. They live there because she wants Cordelia to marry into Shadowhunter family that has like money and a title,
and
so that way she can so she can erase the sins of her father,
right?
And we find out that Cordelia is like in love with James, who she's been in love with since they were like 13,
Right.
and he got sick.
Because
and she
Cordelia,
read to him.
yeah, because Cordelia and Lucy are like, premier
Biffles.
status biffles, and
Yeah, they're going to be para bro tie.
yes, and it's gonna be amazing. And Lucy's
so
very
the-
excited.
Right. So the whole thing is like they're coming to London, so that way, like the tense is they need to train together if they're going to become parabatai. So this is, I'll stop getting so into it. Basically, Cordelia shows up. They meet everybody. We find out that she's in love with James, and James is in love with Grace Blackthorne.
And everyone's
Who,
like, wait,
like-
what?
Exactly. So apparently she's been like trapped away in a tower, like think Rapunzel status. Her Tatiana, I was gonna say her mom, but she calls her mom, is a crazy psycho lady.
Oh yeah,
She's just like, her kid died, her husband died, fuck the clave.
yeah.
So she's not going to let her talk to anybody or do anything. Cordelia doesn't really have friends apart from the Herondales because they've spent all this time traveling. So
Right.
the only people she knows are Lucy and James. But she comes to, like, basically she fits in really well with their friend group. Cordelia is very brave. She takes big risks. She has a big heart. She cares about her friends, and she's an awesome character to be in first person point of view.
It's so interesting with Cordelia. I feel like she's the perfect combination of Clary, Tessa, and Emma. Like she's really is like equal parts all three of them. Like she's just as smart and well studied and witty as Tessa. She's just as brave and like loving and caring as Clary is, and just as like much of a badass as Emma is.
And loyal as Emma.
Yeah. It's such
Emma's
an
very loyal.
interesting, like she literally just took the best parts of all three of them, and she's like, that's fucking Cordelia, because she's a
Right.
bamf.
I always imagine, like, because I was trying to figure out the time, and like, how old would Cordelia be when Emma was born?
Like if she was,
Like, how great would that be if they could just like,
Oh.
this is my great grandma, and we're gonna have a conversation about being badass bitches.
right, yeah, like she'd be like 115.
Right. It would have been cool. Anyway, demons start attacking out of fucking nowhere, and they're like super smart demons. Like, they're weird. They can come in the sunlight. They're not attacking mundanes. They're specifically like honing in on Shadowhunters. And it comes to find out that Belial, who is a prince of hell, who also happens to be James and Lucy's grandfather, is like pulling the strings, sending the demons, infecting people. They're getting, the demon poison is like way worse. Barbara, who is Thomas's older sister, ends up dying.
R.I.P.
And her
Barb.
betrothed also ends up dying. Christopher gets sick. Tatiana gets sick on this demon poisoning. They're all like
And they
underground.
And then like once they're infected, they can infect somebody else. It's like zombie shit.
Yeah. And so they're put to sleep in the Silent City.
Can we just take
And,
a minute? I'm sorry. This is gonna be like so much of me just being like, can we hold on? Can we talk about Christopher Lightwood? What are your thoughts?
Yes. So I am mixing I don't remember much of Christopher's story from when they're at Shadowhunter Academy.
There really isn't much to it. He's just
Except that he like blows shit up, right?
he blows shit up and like forgets where he is all the time.
Right. And so then I'm also like imagining there's a story in Ghost of the Shadow Market that's in Anna Lightwood's point of view. And she's like putting on Christopher's clothes and stuff because she's a fucking badass. Anyway. And to me it seems like I always get this with Christopher. He seems very kind. And just like this like wily inventor. Like I want to be friends.
Right? He's a more innocent Henry. And and we're just about to get into TID in the regular podcast. And so we haven't gotten into this, but like Henry is the love of my life. I love him. He's on par with Alec. Like they're the love that I have for Henry and his perfection is just everything. I love
and it's
him
his little
so
protege.
much.
It's funny as you get like things change, and obviously like I really like Will,
Mm-hmm.
and even I like Will now.
Yeah. I guess Henry is definitely more. I should compare him more to Luke because he is like the adult.
That's what I was just gonna say. Yep.
But he's so endearing and sweet and lovable.
Yeah.
I love the absent-minded
Okay,
scientist.
I know. Okay, I'm gonna push through
Okay,
the
sorry.
rest of this so that way we can dish about the characters
Yeah.
and just have a moment with each of them.
Okay.
Okay, basically, I think the underlying Belial wants James to like join the dark side. They have cookies, and he doesn't want to.
Right. Yeah, he wants to get James's permission to possess him so he can walk among the mortals.
Humans.
Yeah.
And he has to be like, he's like a vampire. It needs to be like let in or something, I guess. I don't know. But James is like, no dice, motherfucker. And then Cordelia. So while this is happening, they're in the shadow world, which is Belial's world.
Mm-hmm.
And Cordelia comes in with Cortana and is like, you know what? Fuck you. And she stabs him.
She's like,
And then the
Cortana can
whole
cut
thing
through
goes
anything,
over.
bitch.
Bitch.
Cut through your
Including
portal
your ass.
and now your ass.
What? And so, anyway, that shadow world is gone. While Christopher is sleeping, before he got,
Mm-hmm.
my ear quotes, before he got poisoned, he was making an antidote to like the demon disease, venom, whatever that was spreading. And they just needed one more thing. So Thomas and Lucy went and got it. And Thomas was able to complete the antidote and administer it to people. So, we can't go too
Okay.
nitty gritty
You're right.
into it.
You're right.
I could explain this book for 3 hours.
Charles motherfucking Buford, you son of a bitch.
We're gonna spend time with each of the main characters,
Okay,
I
I'm
think,
sorry.
and then we can just very quickly like go through it. Anyway, they think everything's happy-go-lucky, good, everything's fine, and then along comes the snatch of a person, Grace Blackthorn, and entraps James again with this stupid fucking bracelet that I knew from the beginning.
Right.
By the way,
Uh-huh.
was bullshit. And then it's somehow her mom is convincing her that it's keeping Jesse alive.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, it's tying him to Belial. What the fuck?
I don't remember that part.
What? It's in the epilogue. So it's like basically the
Okay.
the bracelet was from Belial.
Oh, right,
And
right.
she
okay.
gives it to, and she's like, I was like basically grooming him for you to like take his soul over.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, yeah, right, bitch. When he came down there, he wasn't wearing the fucking bracelet I gave you.
Right. Right.
And then she told Grace that it was to keep Jesse alive. So Grace is basically pretending she's in love with James, because I don't think she actually loves him.
No.
I'm gonna say that.
No.
I don't think she does.
Well, and she's been doing this, like, she's playing the long con here. Like, she's
Yeah,
been setting this
exactly.
shit up for a long years.
So then she comes over and sends him on this last mission, like, look, my mom's fucking cray. Go back to Idris, destroy this like automaton that's enchanted to like rise up and kill Shadowhunters after she dies, and she's gonna kill herself tonight. So which never happened. Fucking whatever.
And destroy all the
Go kill
evidence
this.
that would implicate my family in wrongdoing, like dark magic and necromancy.
Go kill her.
Right.
Well, and so basically he cuts down the clockwork, whatever, the automaton. And then that, like, it's ashes, like the house on fire.
Right.
So he didn't start the fire. And then Matthew and Cordelia are like tasked to be left behind, and then Cordelia's like, fuck that.
Right.
Like, I'm not a sideline bitch, okay? And so they go through the portal.
She's like, I'm
and
the
show up
starter.
there. Right. And anyway, so the whole enclave, whatever, is
Yeah.
meeting. And Tatiana's like, dude, my house fucking burned down and he did it. Grace told me he did it. And so then Will's like all TO'd, of course. And Grace is totally going to spill the beans.
Mm-hmm.
She is. And Cordelia steps up and he's like, no, that didn't happen because guess what? We was knocking boots all night long. What?
Wait, so you think Grace was going to tell the truth?
I do. I totally do.
Really?
What else was she going to say?
Oh, I thought she was going to back up Tatiana.
That's what I meant to say that James was there.
Oh, okay.
Because they were saying like James went through, Tatiana saying he burned my house down. He was there. Grace said so. And I think that was the truth. And I think she was going to say the truth.
Okay.
Yeah, I think she was going to throw him under the bus. Boop, boop.
Yeah, okay. Gotcha.
Anyway, yeah. So, regardless, James thinks that he has to propose to Cordelia.
Well, I don't.
So that way she can clear her reputation.
Yeah, I don't think he's like, oh, I think I have to do this. I think he's like, oh shit, she just saved my ass. I need to save her ass in return.
Right. And the thing that I think is so annoying, and as I was listening, all I could hear was your fucking voice going, plot. Because if either one of them just said, you know what, I was just kidding, I really do love you.
Right.
There wouldn't be conflict. And then why can't Cordelia be like, okay, cool.
But he's still wearing the bracelet. You can marry me. Is he still wearing the bracelet?
But take off the fucking bracelet.
Right. But he doesn't know. Yeah.
But the thing is, it's like he's saying basically, I'm going to devote this year of my life to you. Mm-hmm. Wholeheartedly. And he even told Grace to back the fuck up so he could do this. Cordelia's a good person. Mm-hmm. So if that's the case, it's like, okay, cool, but don't wear your wedding ring. Like, don't wear your basically...
Right.
Take off the bracelet.
Your betrothment gift.
Yeah. And then everything would be fine.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, that is like, there's a bunch of subplots and little textures and stuff in it, but we're already like 35 minutes in, so we can't go too much further. That's the big arc.
Yes.
Okay, now, I don't know why I'm taking over.
No, I love it. I love it. I'm so excited. I'm just like, burning.
So, the main characters I think we'll talk about are James, Thomas, Christopher, Lucy, Anna, Matthew, Cordelia, and Alistair.
Yeah.
And Charles.
Ugh.
And just quick quips on each of them. So, starting with James.
James. You know, I'm still, I think the jury is still out for me on James. He seems, I think because he's been under the control of the bracelet, his personality feels a little bit flat to me. I don't, almost like he's on, medication or something. You know what I mean? He just doesn't seem fully alive.
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, and then what do you want to happen with his character in Chain of Iron?
I want him to...
And then what do you think is going to happen? And then what do you want?
Okay.
Or if they're different.
Okay. So what I want to happen is I want him to stop wearing the goddamn bracelet. And I want...
Hallelujah.
I want him to, have an epic, takedown of Grace. And just be, tell her off. And be like, I know what you've been doing. You're trifling. Get out of my face.
Okay, so obviously not. I agree with everything you're saying. So I'm just going to pop in really quick. The only icing, this little that I have is at the very end. Mm-hmm. Our baby, Magnus, is shit ain't right. I'm going to get Chairman Meow over here. And I think he's going to sniff out the dark magic in the bracelets.
I think so too. I think you're right.
I think Magnus is going to be our our baby hero always.
Yeah.
And by baby, I mean he's my baby, not he's a child.
No, he's the best. I have so many loves of my life, but Magnus is at the top. Everyone knows this.
I love that he's wearing a ruby encrusted waistcoat with matching earrings.
I know. Okay. Well,
and can I just say, I'm very harsh on narrators, and I really, really love the lady that did Chain of Gold, and she's also doing Chain of Iron, so I'm excited.
You are very harsh on narrators, so I'm glad you like this one, especially because like
I don't like her like American Magnus Vane accent that she does, but apart from that, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Anything else? About James?
Yes. So that's what I hope for. But what I think is going to happen is I think we're going to get a lot of James and Cordelia back and forth. You know, that love triangle portion, like, you know, James, Cordelia, and Grace, and like him kind of like figuring out his feelings and whatever. I think we're going to resolve the bracelet gate. I think is going to be resolved in Chain of Iron. I just don't see that as being like a through plot point through 3 books. Like I feel like it's too
It'd
obvious.
be hard to drag it out. Yeah.
And James's relationship with Matthew, I have some feelings. I feel like it's going to be really strained this next book. And part of the reason is because of Grace, and part of the reason is because of Matthew's issues of, you know, alcoholism and his feelings towards Cordelia, who he knows that this is a sham and this is like basically their play acting. But he also knows that Cordelia loves James, and that James is like in some kind of weird shit with Grace. So Matthew's really the only one other than James and Cordelia who is fully in on what's going on, you know?
Right.
And I think that that's going to be an issue for Matthew, because I think Matthew's going to be like, look, Cordelia doesn't deserve this. And that's going to cause tension between the two of them.
Right. So let's pop into Matthew.
Okay. Oh,
since we're like kind of already there.
He's so great.
Okay. Listen, I have issues loving people that have issues. So I love Matthew.
Dude.
Bring me your damaged and emotionally like fucked up. I will take them in.
Right?
And hug them. I think that I am a little bit disappointed in Jim. Although not really, because I know Jim is not Jim anymore. Jim is like Jim with like layers of Silent Brother on top.
Right.
But he knows what happened with Matthew. And he tries to give him like backhanded advice about basically own up to what you did, talk to your mom about it, and then like move on with your life.
Right.
But he doesn't actually sit him down and like really talk to him about it, which seems very un-Jim-like. So I'm assuming, like I said, it's that Silent Brother.
Right.
Layers that are kind of stopping him from doing that. But listen, Cassandra Clare. Listen to me. Personally.
I think she's
Be nice
listening.
to Matthew. Be nice to him. We love him. He's our baby. Let him be happy.
Girl.
Because honestly, I am like, I'm probably going to get some haterade. I don't care. I want Matthew and Cordelia to be together.
Okay. Me too. 100% me too.
Yeah.
I'd be
with James, it's like
I'd be okay with Matthew being with anyone. I just want him happy. Like I would take Lucy. I would take.
See, I'm not into the Lucy. I don't think that's it probably will be, because that's how shit plays out in books or whatever.
Like he's had a crush on her forever, but I think he's now moving on to Cordelia, because like Lucy's been like, yeah, no, I'm not interested. Oh wait, okay. So Matthew. So yes, I agree. Like I just want Matthew to be happy, but I do actually really think that Matthew and Cordelia would be a nice pairing.
So here's the thing. I don't want Cordelia obviously has issues with her dad and stuff that they're just coming to light with her.
Right.
I don't want her to be with Matthew if Matthew doesn't get the help that he needs to get. Matthew needs to work on Matthew.
Yes.
Before anything else can happen.
100%.
But exactly. And I wouldn't want anybody to be whatever. Anyway. But I think with James, it's like he and Grace broke off the engagement with him and took the bracelet back. Right. And then he was free to like be his own person or whatever. And I feel like he just didn't which obviously it's hard to. Cordelia's had. We're in her mind because we get to be a POV character, and she's had like years to develop these feelings for him. So it's probably a little bit easier for us to like be like, okay, well, she really loves him, and he's kind of like not reciprocating, and like
right, because we only get such short amounts of time with him in the real him when he remembers being young and having a fever, and Cordelia being so kind, and he's been in love with her forever, but like it's been hidden.
He couldn't remember he was in love with her, so he's being dodgy about it.
Yeah,
and I think that's why like, and we get to be with Matthew as Matthew because he's not under some spell, and it's like, okay, there's little things that I think Matthew actually cares about in the world.
Yeah.
Like, I think he cares about his friends. Like, I think he loves his mom. Like, but those things are kind of embedded in his life.
Yeah.
And Cordelia is a new person to him.
Right.
So for him to be able to, like, open that up to somebody that's new in his life is huge for him.
Right.
I think.
Yeah. Without him even realizing it. Yeah. I love Matthew. And so I will share with you one of the crackpot theories. I was watching a YouTube video. I believe it was my favorite YA, I think it was. But she was talking about fan theories around Matthew. And now we have some information. We know that 5 Shadowhunters are going to die in, I believe, this next book. And like we know that like some like it's going to Cassie has said that this trilogy is going to be the saddest of all of the trilogies, and I'm like, after what you did to Livia Blackthorn, like I don't know if I can handle it.
Yeah, and there's a meme I have going
what
on Instagram for her.
Yeah,
that one I sent you earlier today.
Yeah. Dude, but like you did Livia that dirty, and then Robert immediately after, and I did, and then the book just ended. It just ended, Robin. Anyway. So it's supposed to be really sad. So there's theories, because you know how they have the tarot decks that are commissioned from Cassie. So they're kind of canon, right? Because like she specifically commissions them. So when they show up, like you can get clues from them. Well, apparently Matthew's card, he didn't have runes on him. And then they changed it and put runes on him later after people started noticing. So, crackpot theory is that Matthew either gets his mark stripped because of what he did to Charlotte, like people find out or some shit happens, or he got turned into a vampire or a werewolf.
Okay.
Which is interesting. Now, the chick that I watched, she kind of elaborated on the werewolf one because of something that was said in the last half of the Mortal Instruments series, talking about the Praetor Lupus and how the Praetor Lupus are like prohibitionists, basically. They don't drink or do drugs or do anything like that. Whereas back in TID days, we knew Woolsey Scott was like, he was like a connoisseur of like booze and fine stuff and, you know, all that stuff. So we know at some point the Praetor Lupus has changed over the last 100 years and became this like non-drinking.
Straight edge.
Yeah, exactly. They did permanent X's on their hands. So the theory is that Matthew became a werewolf, and through becoming a werewolf got sober and then like rose through the ranks of the Praetor Lupus, and he's the one that changed it.
Okay.
So I don't mind that theory because it means that Matthew's still alive and he has a chance at happiness. Because like
it's crazy.
I can't handle it if he dies.
No. I remember reading. We're spoiling everywhere. We're talking about
everything. It's fine.
Okay, I remember reading Lady Midnight, the last one. Queen of Air and Darkness.
Yes.
Yeah, Queen of Air and Darkness is the last one. Literally screaming if you kill Mark Blackthorne, I will never fucking forgive you. Like, out loud, out of no record, and I was like, bitch, back up. I will literally never forgive you. So I have those same feelings towards Matthew.
Which is so funny because Mark, like, I like Mark as a character just fine, but like I don't have the connection with him that you do, which I
love
and
him.
I love like the way that you react to Mark content and just like he is my everything. Like, it's so
I will
funny.
literally never talk to you again.
Oh, it's great.
So Matthew is my new Mark.
Yeah,
Matthew is my chain of gold Mark.
Matthew is just so precious. And I honestly believe that if I had not read his Ghost of the Shadow Market story, I would not have such a deep connection with him. Because
I agree.
in that, even though it was a short story, we got the before Matthew. Like, really, like, a lot. Like, we really got to see inside his brain and see how happy and wonderful he was.
Well, and then voice actor.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was just, like, gold. Like, it was so good.
Mm-hmm.
It was magical. It was a moment.
Yes.
He did such a good job portraying Mark. Like, Mark. Got him on the brain. Matthew.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah. And that story really, like, makes or breaks you. And it's like either you're going to be a Matthew stan for life or you're just never going to.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
I don't know about that. I haven't got a chance to research theories or anything because I literally just finished it today.
Yeah.
So, not knowing anything off that, I would just assume he is going to keep kind of being crusty, musty, whatever. And knowing how these books usually go, Lucy's probably going to be the one that's like, hey, motherfucker, I told you, snap out of it. Yeah. And then they're going to fall in love and they're going to end up together. Like,
really?
That's the typical, like, what's probably going to happen.
I don't think that at all. I think I'll talk about Lucy when we get to Lucy, but because she's got a very interesting storyline and trajectory right now. I think because it's a second book in a trilogy, I think just Matthew is going to be tortured beyond anything that I will feel is appropriate.
Right. I agree.
The entire book. Like, I don't think he's going to get let up. I think it's going to be just pushing him down into the gutter the entire book, and it's going to break my fucking heart.
Right. Well, and then getting Thomas. We talked about Christopher already. Mm-hmm. Thomas, I kind of think is this. I get Alec vibes from Thomas.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Just like the way he looks and the way he acts, and he's kind of like the level-headed, like keeps everybody. Like, I know that like James is a quote leader, but like, is he really?
Thomas is the adult in the room.
Exactly. Yeah. Which to me is more like I don't know.
Yeah.
Alec vibes.
And it's so interesting because like he was like really small in Ghost of the Shadow or Shadowhunter Academy. I think that was the story we got that in. But like, yeah, he was like really small and like meek and kind of like quiet and just, hey, I'm over here, you know? And then like he got all huge and jacked but he still has the personality and the attitude of someone who is really small. So it makes him really endearing and like sweet. But he's also just super mature for his age. Like he definitely doesn't deal with the petty shit like the rest of them do.
Uh-huh. Well, and oh my God, they were like recapping in this last like couple chapters, maybe the last chapter. I think it might have been. So at the end of Chain of Gold, they're at the engagement party.
Okay.
And Alistair's coming over to Thomas because he's just like, okay, well, I just broke it off with my like dickhead beau. Like, what's up?
Right.
Boy.
Right. He's like, well, you know, I just broke up with fucking Charles again because they're Ross and Rachel of this group.
Right.
Whatever.
How you doing?
Like super toxic relationship.
Yeah. So then he comes over and he's trying to like whatever. And Matthew is like, no. And Thomas is like, dude, like, we're not children. Like, move on. Give him a chance. And Matthew's just like, no. You know what this motherfucker said? And he said it with I think he recalled it and said it with a lot more acidity, like, to it than what actually happened, because in Matthew's mind, if Alistair wouldn't have been such a giant dickhead.
Yes.
And bullied him, what happened to Charlotte would not have happened to Charlotte.
Exactly.
It was his fault.
Yeah.
In his head. Like, I think that Matthew knows that he's the one that did it. And I don't think he's blaming Alistair, but he's like, if you would have never put these ideas in my head, I wouldn't have acted on them. And so he's like, extra. And I was listening to that in the car, and I was like, oh my God.
And the way
like,
Thomas reacts, I was like, oh damn. Okay. Wow.
Well, she just buttered that like toast and like all four corners, dude. I was like, damn.
Yeah. Because when you were saying that the first time, before I made you repeat yourself, because I had forgotten that part about, and especially about what Alistair had said about Sophie. And how
basically he was saying that like Sophie was so ugly that he couldn't be with her. And like, if I don't remember all the like niche stuff about the infernal devices, but I remember we were sitting around talking about how he kept ordering the stuff from the kitchen for Sophie because he wanted to see her.
Oh yeah, Gideon. Yeah, because he's a fucking idiot. Because he's a light one.
Right.
And
So it's like he obviously
romance.
like he is like deeply in love with her. So that is so like, how fucking dare you?
Well, and also Sophie is the sweetest human being on the planet.
Well, and the worst part about it is I went into the book and I was literally like, fuck, Alistair's going to be in this book. I don't like him. Like, I hate him. And then as the book goes on, it's like, okay, he's probably lashing out because...
you start to understand him a little bit.
Why he's doing this and everything. Not that it's excusable.
No.
But you at least get his, like, kind of token on it or whatever.
But
and he almost redeems himself at the end of the book. And then at the last minute... Cassandra Clare's just like, bloop.
Yep.
Let's turn this back on and actually really remember what happened. And I was just like, dude.
Yeah, like she's like, oh yeah, give him a redemption arc. But oh, wait, no. He actually has a long way to go before he can achieve that redemption. It's not going to be so easy for you, buddy. Yeah.
And so I think in Chain of Iron, he's going to work up to getting it back. I think that Lucy walking out at the end and seeing him cry is that footstep into the rest, like the middle meat or whatever of his redemption arc. Because she was able to see that like raw emotion on him, and it really affected her because she said it made her think of seeing Will cry when his dad died. It was the first time she'd ever seen like an adult cry, or an adult man. I don't know if it was a male or just adult. And so like she had those strong feelings. She reacted to it strongly as well.
Yeah, I think Alistair's going to have an interesting, because I despised him with every fiber of my being. And then Cassandra Clare made him relatable. And that's one thing that I love so much about books is you do not have to agree with everything a character does to still love them, because you get to understand them. And it's like, people don't make all the right decisions all the time, but like you still love them anyways. And Alistair's character is so interesting. I want to see what happens with him. I want him... Listen, if there is an Edwardian equivalent for like revenge body, hashtag Khloe Kardashian, like I want Alistair to get it. Like I want him to like do something or like achieve like just something to just rub in Charles' face. Like I want Charles to be treated like the scum on the bottom of your shoe, and I want him to feel about 2 millimeters tall. Like, ugh.
Dude, I like, okay.
I guess that's a good segue into Charles.
We talked about this briefly.
Yeah.
I do not understand how Charlotte and Henry raised a person that acts like that, unless both of them were too involved in their work to really notice that like shift happening in him.
Yeah. I don't know.
And I think some people are just what is it, nature versus nurture? That's always the argument, right? I think some people are just tuned that way, I guess. Like, you want things other people, different from other people, but I do not see them raising somebody like that, like him toasting himself constantly,
right? And like, yeah, and like trying to take over and be like, well, I'm important, like whatever,
right?
And I wonder if any of that, like, I wonder if we saw what it was like for him at school, because Charlotte was the first female consul. I can imagine that was hard for him, and having to constantly prove his worth. But he has not matured out of that behavior.
Well, that, and I think also, so he's older, but I think he was living in Matthew's shadow often because he's so likable.
Right. Because Matthew is the entertainer.
Everybody loves Matthew. He's bubbly. He's the center of attention. He's all that and above.
He's literally the best of Henry and Charlotte.
Exactly. Yeah. So he's kind of has to live in that shadow. And I think the other thing that's kind of like sad about his character is I think in his head he thinks he's doing the right thing.
Who, Charles?
Mm-hmm. So it's like he's found this way to like arrange this with Ariadne, who they can have basically like a fake marriage.
Yeah.
And they've probably been able to figure that out. And he was able to, I don't know if it was luck or what happened, but he was able to arrange that. Right. I don't know if it was like he was able to arrange it knowing something beforehand, or if he just got lucky.
So I think there was a breakdown of communication between Ariadne and Charles, because I think Charles went into this knowing that Ariadne and Anna had a thing going on and being like, perfect, we will be each other's beards, this is how it's gonna go. But when Ariadne decided that she was getting engaged, didn't she tell Anna that she was gonna be faithful to her husband?
Well, she was just like, look, like, let's have fun and enjoy ourselves, but I want to be a mother. Like, that means more, like, having kids and being a mother means more to anything else to me in my entire life. I'm getting married. Like, this is what I'm going to do. I'll just be unhappy, like, like, I won't have that part of my, like, I won't have love for my relationship, but I'll have love from my children.
Right. But she was the one that said, like, her and Anna could do like their thing now, but like once she got married, then like they're not going to be together anymore.
Right. I'll just be miserable in love.
Right.
But I'll have love for my kids.
So I feel like she did not like get the memo from Charles, because Charles would be like, whoa, no, like I got a boyfriend.
It's cool.
Yeah, we're good. Like, all you need is Alistair and Anna to get married, and then you guys live together, and then it's all fine.
It's good. You have a compound. Yeah. Although, I wonder, I guess Alec is still having a hard time in the Mortal Instruments, because Shadowhunters are a little more liberal than humans are at this time. Humans? Mundanes. Yeah, Mundanes. Oh, I said humans. But I still don't think they're that liberal, because I think Alec was still having issues.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think that, and this is just from like what I know of history and stuff, in terms of like, if we're gonna, I think the Shadowhunters take cues from the mortal world, from the mundane world. But I think back then it wasn't so much, it was very much like a social circle of like, if you're at a party and this is like kind of like the Hell Royale. Right? Like, it's like no one's going to talk about it. So, like, what happens here stays here kind of a situation. I think there was more of that, like, code of honor of, like, yeah, when people go to let loose, like, no one cares what you do. It's just kind of, yeah, you're going to go do your thing. As long as you're not walking down the street together. It was more about, like, appearances in society versus no one really cared what you did in your private life.
Right. Well, and I hope I don't know, I'm on the fence, because I really was getting that Alistair, like, redemption piece. And then at the end, she just reminded me why I don't really reminded me why I don't like him. So I think he's going to have a hard time. Like, I think I already said that. And then Lucy's going to help him out. That's my. And then I guess we'll hit Lucy and then hit Cordelia.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we have to make our notes about Tessa that we had made earlier.
Yes.
So we'll run through this pretty quick.
Okay.
Lucy
and Jesse. And Lucy's a Bamf. Like, she was kind of like a sleeper this book in Chain of Gold.
Yeah.
She was kind of like, you were like, okay, yeah, she's like kind of like this little kid who likes to write fantasy and like the wonderful Cordelia and, you know, what was it called?
I can't remember. I should, but I don't.
Yeah, it's something. Anyway. But she was kind of like presented as very youthful. Like, we knew she's the youngest in the group, but she was not as mature as the rest of them, I think. And so you were kind of like, yeah, Lucy's the little sister. And you kind of like put her in that box. But then like she comes out with this like massive ability to control ghosts. So, she has this amazing ability to just be like, hey, ghosts, come do my bidding. And they fucking have to. Like,
it's not even like she can request.
No.
Like, hey, could you help me out here? They have to do what she's controlling them.
I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Is she a mortal instrument? What the fuck? Like, how is this? No one has been this powerful. That's insane. And, you know, because everything's so focused on James and his flashy powers. And Lucy's over here, like, straight up God tier. Just doing what she wants, running her army of the dead. Like,
I'm surprised she hasn't gone to Tessa about it, honestly.
Me too. I'm surprised Tessa was not in this more.
Well, so because James went to his parents and they had Jem basically like Snape him. Well, he's trying to teach him occlumency.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, control your powers, whatever. And then he like reached out to like Jem throughout the book. So I'm surprised that she just didn't, which obviously she just found out about it. It's not like something she's lived with for a while, but I feel like she would have. But also, like, went to her.
What kind of relationship does Tessa have with their kids? Because I feel like most of the interactions are with Will and the children. And we don't get a lot of Tessa. And I'm like, what kind of mom was she? Because she doesn't seem like she's all that involved in their lives. Like, they don't talk about her other than like James saying that like he really loves his mom and she's an awesome person and like super nice. Like, yeah, we know she's fucking Tessa. Like
Lucy was saying, like, there's a scene at, I think it's also at, it's surrounding the engagement. It's basically everybody's. So Lucy knows about the fake arrangement between Cordelia and James. So she knows, and so do Thomas, Christopher, and Matthew.
Knows what?
And Lucy. About, like, basically that the arrangement between Cordelia and James is like a fake arrangement.
I thought only Matthew knew.
No, so they told the Merry Thieves, and they all decided to just like, they didn't tell Anna.
Okay.
But they told Christopher, Thomas, and Matthew no. Matthew's the only one that really, really knows.
Okay.
Like, all the nitty gritty details.
Okay.
But Lucy knows and everybody knows. So she's basically able to scope out the room, like, knowing that James and Cordelia know that it's not real, and then being able to gauge the like expression. So she's basically lamenting, like, everybody, like, I really want this to happen. Everybody looks so happy. My dad looks happy. Cordelia's mom looks happy. Like, I would be super happy if I knew. Like, I'm not happy because I know it's not real, but if I didn't, like, I almost wish that I didn't know so I could be happy. But then she notices Tessa looks off. Okay. And so she's basically saying, like, Tessa's face, like,
Tessa
her
knows
mom's
what's
face
up.
isn't, like, she knows something's, like, not all aces. And so, but she's like, she spent so long, like, studying her mom's looks that she was able to tell how she felt differently. Like, nobody else in the room probably could have, like, saw that it was off except me, because I know so much about her, or Will, or, you know, whatever.
Right.
Which that doesn't mean that she was super involved, but at least
that
her kids think of her endearingly.
And that also might make sense that like the first book was just like, we need to make sure that people know that this is not a sequel specifically to TID following our beloved characters. Like there needed to be some separation. So I wonder if Tessa's going to play a larger role in book 2.
I think she will. That's kind of what I was.
Because it would make sense that Tessa and Magnus would be working together on this. Something's going on, something's amiss. Because of course Magnus is going to go to Tessa.
I think between and I've really been reading all over the place, because especially Ghosts of the Shadow Market expands the entire series. Right. But I feel like in what I'm thinking happens is Tessa doesn't really do any quote warlock training until after World War II.
Right.
World War I. World War II.
World War II.
Because she's with Katarina Loss and they're nurses, and she's saying basically she has to defer to Katarina all the time because Katarina has way more warlock skills than she does.
Right, because Tessa was basically just working out her Shadowhunter skills.
Exactly. And I think that was right after Will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Will died in, I want to say it was 38 or something, 1938. So it was right before World War II. And that's when she went off the deep end and was I'm going to run away and join the army. So.
Yeah. Which I don't think she joined the army. I think she just worked at a hospital.
I know. I was just.
Because she was helping, people and that were getting bombed or whatever.
Yeah.
Which leads us to. Do we cover? I guess we need to cover Cordelia.
Oh yeah. Okay. So Cordelia, I think
she's pretty fleshed out.
I really like Cordelia as a character. I think she's really interesting. I want to give her more to do than love James. I feel like she's too good of a character and too interesting of a character for her main plot to be getting the guy she loves to see her. And I feel we're falling a little bit into this. We got a little bit of I've got to save my family and figure out what's going on with my dad. But it kind of got railroaded by the fact that I love James every page.
So I can't remember which character it is. And I think it might be Katarina Loss, but I could be very incorrect.
Okay.
But somebody in Ghosts of the Shadow Market is talking to Jim and brings up Cordelia. I am so old that I know one of your ancestors, Cordelia Carstairs. She's such a badass. So there has to be more.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we're going to get it. I do think that she's going to prove her own, awesome story. And I do really think that Cassie knows what the audience wants and knows that there's got to be something other than her relationship with James, as she has to play an integral part in whatever this next war is.
Well, and if you look at her writing, I mean, Ghosts of the Shadow Market was in Jim's point of view, basically, and obviously Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy was Simon.
Right.
But those are her kind of one-offs. But in each of her big 3 series, the main thing is strong female lead.
Yeah.
We had Tessa, we had Emma, we had Clary. It has to be Cordelia.
Yeah.
Which I think this book has been the best, the largest mix of leading characters, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely feel the plot and the story is more evenly dispersed throughout the ensemble.
Well, because it's you knew Julian was a main character,
right.
but the books were about Emma.
Right. And Julian was, but I did really enjoy the fact that Emma's search for her parents was her primary motivation. And Julian's, need to keep his family safe was his primary motivation. Their primary motivation wasn't finding a way to be together. I feel right now Cordelia's primary motivation isn't fleshed out. And I'm hoping that we get a little more of that. And I think because Elias is coming back, her dad's coming to town, I think we're going to get more of that. And so she can kind of divert a little further away from James. And that just might be because James isn't everything to me right now, but that might change. Because...
Well, and who knows? I mean, it's also, I guess Tessa's was never a normal, quote, girl for her age. No. She never acted like it. She wasn't.
No, she was always very mature and, like, studious.
And very liberal.
Yeah.
I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like, she didn't have that same whatever. Yeah. I think Cordelia was raised traditional.
Yeah.
As far as, like, oh, your main job in life is to find a husband. Your main goal is to make a good match. Right. Your main thing is, like, I think that might be the difference. Mm-hmm. So, like, her thing with James makes sense for the time period. Right. But I do hope for more for her.
Yeah.
And I think that we'll get it in Chain of Iron. I think it's still going to be intertwined with the plot, the main plot line of Tatiana and the bracelet and Belial. I think it's still going to be entwined with James. But I think she'll still, like, prove herself to be.
I agree.
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't think that she has other stuff. I just want more of it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, yeah, it's not. And also, I've only read this book once. So, like, I usually have to read these books at least twice before I can make a solid, like, this is exactly how I feel. Because things change. But.
Of course. Well,
yeah.
And I think the last part that brings us to is Tessa's relationship with her kids and her. So I hope there's something happens in either Chain of Iron or the following subsequent book that explains Tessa's complete ghosting of her entire family.
Yeah.
I understand it's painful. I understand it would be painful to watch Will die, obviously. Yeah. But at that point, as far as we know, her kids were still alive. Like, yes, Will died. Right. But you had Lucy and James.
And their children. Like, assuming.
And their children, like, exactly, like, couldn't you, like, be there for them?
Right.
Like, in some way, shape, or form or something where it's like you're living in a crappy one-bedroom, like, studio apartment.
Right. And, like.
In the middle of London that's getting bombed. Like, I just don't.
Well, and Robin and I had this conversation via text. And we both understand that the running explanation here is that Tessa was so heartbroken by having to live in a world without Will that she just couldn't take it, and she had to separate herself from the rest of, her family, because she just couldn't take the heartbreak of watching the same thing happen to them, right? So that's the explanation. I understand that that's an explanation. I don't think it's good enough for Tessa. I feel like Tessa is mature enough, and we've always seen her as, like, this wise person. She's known the whole time she's been with Will that she's immortal and he's mortal and he's gonna die. She has prepared herself for years and years and years. What I can't seem to match up with her character is why she would sacrifice years, decades of memories with her children that she could carry with her for the rest of her life to, like, she's sacrificing that to leave early and save herself heartache, except she's still heartbroken. Like, she just doesn't want to watch them die. It's like, okay, well, you know that they're going to die. You're going to hear about when they die. You're still going to feel the same. Like, why would you give up possibly 40 years of memories with your adult children before they die? Like, it seems very short-sighted for Tessa. I don't know. That's why I don't like it, but
I feel like in the story I'm thinking of, it's called A Deeper Love. That's the story in Ghost of the Shadow Market. I feel like they mention that her kids were like safe in America. And she just was going to stay there and like have a purpose, I guess.
Yeah.
But
we do know from other works that she, like, after her kids were gone, she didn't keep up with the Herondale line at all.
Until Jim wanted her to help find Kit.
Right. Yeah. Like, so she could have been in Stephen Herondale's life. She could have been in Imogen's life. She could have stayed within the Shadowhunter culture and been with her descendants. I mean, and I understand, like, at some point you might not want to because maybe you don't feel the personal connection if you're not going to, like, if you're going to become, like, the distant aunt. You know, like I get that, but I don't know.
I mean, imagine how things might have played out differently if she was able to be there for Imogen when she lost her husband and Stephen.
Right.
I can't remember her husband's name. I'm sorry.
I think
but
was it Marcus? I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. But she would have been because she legit knows how you feel.
Right.
And she could have been there to help her even. So we get this really short story in, again, sorry, Goes to the Shadow Market. It ranges through all the
it connects
decades
everything.
And you get stuff in between it, like really arcs well, where you're in Celine Herondale's point of view and you realize why she did what she did.
And your entire opinion of her changes.
And it's like, if I could just like, if she could have just talked to her, I don't know.
Yeah.
She had nobody in her life because she didn't even like Valentine.
Right.
I don't know. I think Tessa could have done very well. And you know what? Maybe she realizes that, which is why she was also so like, I got to make things right. I need to help Kit. I need to do this. But it is a little stingy. I hope, beyond hope, that she changes her way of thinking towards that with Jem and her new line of heirs.
I agree. And also, it's important to note that most of this, like, information about Tessa and her kids and all of that is all alluded to. Nothing's spelled out anywhere. So we really don't have the full picture of how involved she was in their lives. But from what we have, it doesn't paint that great of a picture. Like, it doesn't.
I hope.
But, like, I hope that it's different. But it would be interesting to see how that plays out with. Is it Mina?
I hope we get some sort of like resolution.
Yeah.
Of the reasoning, really why.
Right.
In these two books, because what we've heard so far is it's just she's trying to find a will to live after her husband died. Like, she's trying to like.
Right.
And I just knowing Tessa and what kind of characters she's and how she's written, and like she knows that she has Jim there still.
Yeah.
And they visit every year.
Right.
It just doesn't seem like
I understand being heartbroken and maybe it taking you a while to like get over it. Like, I totally get that. And having
just be arranged for everybody you love to be vampires, and then you could all live together.
That's what I'm saying, man. Just
use your critical thinking skills here.
There are options. Anyway,
I don't know how much this was about. Sorry, go ahead.
No.
You were going to say something else about Tessa.
No, you're right. No, I wasn't going to say. You're right. I don't know how much of this was about Chain of Iron. It was mostly about Chain of Gold.
Dishing about Chain of Gold.
We just needed to. But I
just needed to get it out.
I think Chain of Iron is going to be your typical second book in the trilogy Cassandra Clare novel. There's going to be a lot of angst, a lot of really frustrating crap. These characters are going to go through it.
Lots of cliffhangers.
I 100% believe she is going to have a massive cliffhanger at the end of this book. I feel like it's definitely going to be like a Lord of Shadows. Wait. Lady Midnight? Lady Midnight. Was Lady Midnight first or second?
I feel like Lady Midnight was first.
And then Lord of Shadows was second, right?
Yeah, let me just Google it.
For the life of me, I can never remember the order of those two.
Book 2, yeah.
Book 2 is Lord of Shadows. Okay, yeah. So
Yeah.
the end of Lord of Shadows, where we just literally the biggest thing that has ever happened in a Cassandra Clare book happened. And we just kind of,
I agree.
we just went, oh my God. I think it's going to be like that. I think someone major is either going to be really badly hurt or die. And we're going to suffer. And then we're going to suffer for like 18 months before we get the next book.
And then we're going to get the next book and we're going to suffer some more.
Yeah. And then we'll get the wicked powers and fucking hell. Kitty is life. For me.
Yes.
All right. Well, that was a long bonus episode, but
thanks for listening to us ramble.
I like it.
Give us your feedback. Do you like this? Is this something we should like?
Yeah. Do you
pop in more?
Yeah. Like having short, just kind of like unstructured Shadowhunter chat time.
Although I don't know if an hour and 30 minutes is short, but
that's fair.
That's cool.
That's fair.
That's cool.
All right.
And thanks for putting up with my background noise. This was very off the cuff.
Yeah, impromptu.
So we don't have the normal, studio time. So I appreciate.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, tune in a couple of days on Tuesday for episode 60, where we will be wrapping up City of Glass.
City of Glass.
Yeah.
In its entirety.
Amanda usually says something here, but
for behind the scenes content and the latest updates, check us out on Instagram at Downworlder Podcast. We'll see you next time. Bye.